And me.
Will, and then your other now semi-regular, Kristen.
She's back again.
Hello.
She's back again because we're here to talk about menopause.
Menopause.
They got real confused there. They're like, "Ooh, Kristen's going to
Talking about men.
to talk about men." Actually, that's going to be the next high demand podcast topic.
I would
love to talk about
So yeah,
men.
after our podcast on,
Why are you the way that you are, men?
I mean,
that's the whole thing.
we just kind of talked about it before we came on air.
Yeah.
I don't know if people would want to.
We don't need to go into that. Not this time.
We start arguing why we're wired the way we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to matter.
Nah.
Even though it is
Nobody wants
the truth. So menopause. So after we talked about other girl things, women things,
Periods.
a lot of people requested menopause. So the main thing is, obviously a lot of women, it's coming as you age, but to realize that you have always have control over your mindset, your lifestyle, and your environment, and those have a huge effect on some of the things you experience in menopause, but also before menopause and after menopause. So, some of these hormonal things that we just go through that are a natural part of aging, setting yourself up with the right mindset and expectations is going to be a good first step. And then the good second step is always focusing on those things you can control. So with that said, we are going to dive into what is menopause and kind of what to expect.
What happens.
Then we'll break down some of the different symptoms people experience, maybe some ways you can manipulate or improve those symptoms, and kind of leave you with 5 or 6 strategies, that are actionable. So, Kristen, you want to dive into menopause?
Yes. I guess you could categorize menopause in 3 phases. There's perimenopause, which is the transition between your regular menstrual cycle and menopause. During this time, your periods are irregular, less predictable, but they're still happening, and you still have your hormones. They're just fluctuating. So you might notice that your periods are longer or shorter, heavier or lighter. Like I said, just less predictable. And if you listen to our menstrual podcast, we talked about tracking, and this is a way that you could probably predict or be aware that you might be entering this transitional phase of your life if you've been tracking and you kind of know what your regular cycle could be. Unfortunately, this can last several years, and it starts
like 2 years, 10 years.
2 to 10 years. It's crazy, and I feel like I even asked some. I feel like it's hard to find a good answer. I asked some members, and it was almost like, and even my mom and your mom, Gary, I don't know how long, I don't know. It almost kind of I don't think it comes and goes as as easily as these people said.
Like it starts and then stops.
So it usually starts, average age of perimenopause is 39 to 51. And like I said, it can last for several years. Symptoms starting then are the hot flashes, joint pain, headaches, cognitive decline, depression. So after this time of transition and irregular periods, you'll enter menopause. Let me get it right. It's after 1 year of not having a bleed week. So
that's kind of what they say is the official.
You've entered menopause,
and
started the race.
So basically 1 year without
a bleed.
Yeah.
So if you bled in 2020 in August, and you don't have a period in August 21, then you've done it, ladies.
You're here.
You're here. And it's like bliss, right? I don't know, because there seems to be a lot of symptoms that people talk about. So menopause is the natural ending of your menstrual cycle. Your ovaries stop producing estrogen. Ovulation stops and resulting in no more progesterone production. So you're not at risk of having babies anymore. If that is maybe a goal of yours, if you've been practicing natural, safe sex, now you don't have to worry about all the natural things you did, like either pulling out or whatever you've done before in the past. Now you can just have nice, beautiful sex without worrying about the risk of having to take care of more children. That sounds really nice.
I mean, yeah.
And then also not even having to deal with being on your period and bringing all these things you have to do in order to support that week of your life. And like this happens around age 52.
52.
Yeah, so kind of like just like why it's happening and what's happening, and along with like this like imbalance or this hormone drop. So what's happening is you have all the like your hormones fluctuating throughout your life, and you kind of have three transition excuse me phases in your life of these like natural hormone fluctuations. So puberty, both men and women have that, like lots of hormones are
Classic.
happening.
Yep.
If you have a baby, during pregnancy, your uterus is producing all these hormones and you feel like good and bad sometimes, but then after you deliver your baby and your placenta, it plummets down. So then there's baby blues, and then it could lead into some postpartum depression. So then the next transition that you have, or big change in your hormones or fluctuations, is menopause. And again, you no longer have that support anymore of your hormones from your sex organs. The estrogens produced somewhere else now.
Yeah. And then there's also two other situations that could happen, right, which are premature menopause, which is rare, but it's where menopause occurs before the age of 40.
Yeah.
So
you do not have a menstrual cycle. You're not bleeding anymore.
And typically, there's going to be some kind of like rare thing that causes that, so it could be genetic inheritance. Other things like smoking could also cause that. Trauma from brain damage or, an injury you had. So yeah, typically if it happens before you're 40, well, it can happen. So you don't have to be like, this can't happen, because
right,
it can.
Because they don't know like when it could happen naturally or if it's onset by something else too.
And then there's also artificial menopause, which is when menopause occurs when ovaries are removed or damaged because of the sudden drop in hormones from this. The symptoms begin abruptly.
It just forces it to happen, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so either having a full hysterectomy or hysterectomy.
Right. So typically,
cause that,
artificial menopause, I'm sure if you're doing anything that has your ovaries being removed, you're warned of those symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So that one you will know when that's happening.
Right, and you might be aware because it's a sudden like drop, and like when it happens naturally, it's gradual. And then if you are aware of it, you can maybe help support some of those symptoms that you're having, which could be extreme and different for each woman.
So, as we've established, obviously, menopause is changes in your hormones, right, which are very real and affect your body in different ways. But it's also important to remember things like what we eat, exercise, also affects our hormones. So all through our life, almost everything we do, even our thoughts, in that kind of process, also affects our hormones. So it's not like Kristen said, like there's just this line in the sand when you hit a certain age and you cross this, and there's just, my hormones are completely changing because of this. The reality is our hormones are always kind of ebb and flowing and changing based on a lot of things that we control. So if you do what you can to help yourself along with all that, and you kind of have good habits going into it, or develop them as you start to, develop menopause,
right.
You can have some positive effects on things.
Yeah, so like perimenopause, if you know that you're in it or you kind of experience some of the symptoms that I think that we're going to get to, you can support it by kind of changing some lifestyle habits. So if we want to talk about some of those symptoms.
Yeah, let's go through the symptoms, because I think, obviously you can get real sciencey with the hormone stuff, but most people, they experience symptoms. That's what they know.
Yeah, that's the
right?
cue.
That's the real world thing is like, I can't sleep. I get really hot. So we'll go through those and kind of, how people can address it, or even really just what to expect. So you have an expectation.
Yeah, and some
that's real.
Some considerations of what maybe you could do to help get through this time.
So one of the first, most common symptoms is bladder. So bladder changes. Got to go pee-pee.
Yeah, so I mean,
the 12. This is how you know men are way different. Like maybe I've never hit puberty and I still act like a 12-year-old. But yeah, so a lot of women will notice that you have trouble, holding yourself together there.
Well, like, so just the aging process, like everything's going to deteriorate, and your pelvic floor is one thing that's going to deteriorate. I mean, especially if you've had multiple births or even given birth, like that is, I guess, for lack of a word, damage to that area. But you can help this by having a good breathing regimen and building core stability. All the things are important. Proper, like, support after having babies to regain that strength in your pelvic floor will help support that later. And it's not true, like, even if you are in your 50s and you've noticed some incontinence or just some changes in your pelvic floor, whether it's painful sex, dryness and stuff, like the breathing would help with the pelvic floor strengthening, but then healthy diet will help support all the other things that you could be experiencing there too.
So, it's kind of understanding that the decreased estrogen from menopause can cause a reduced ability to control our urinary tract, right? But at the same time, like Kristen said, well, if you're, exercise and focus on breathing techniques, you can strengthen and improve your pelvic muscles, which then can help you control it, right? So it's like you can counterbalance these things. What a lot of people happens is as we age, we just accept a lot of stuff. Like, yeah, we aren't as active and these things happen. So we're like, this is just part of aging. Whereas in reality, getting weaker and not being able to control certain muscles, you can like defend against that over the years.
Right, right.
So another common one is body composition, right? So due to changing hormones, our body starts to change in shape. So this is a super complicated one. We probably talked about it for like an hour before this.
Yeah.
And one thing, which we didn't get to talk a ton about, but what does happen is, in the most general sense, ultimately, if we are gaining fat, we're consuming way more calories than we need. And to lose fat, we consume less than we need. But our hormones affect a lot of this, right? Of basically, well, how much calories do we need, right? That's
they kind of up and down regulate
the tricky
you.
part, right? So that's one part of this equation is those shifts. The other is that people may notice, and you hear this a lot, when my body just wasn't what it used to be, right? So as our hormones change, it can change where and how we deposit fat, right? So maybe when you're younger, you're like, you have a tiny waist and the fat is in your butt and thighs, and if anything, that's where you want it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
definitely a healthy.
according to Instagram, that's where you want it.
That's why I did my research.
But then as you change, you're like, man, I just got, it seems like I get body fat in my stomach more and my shape is gone. So yeah, that's the effect of some of these hormones, right?
Yeah, like after pre-menopause, a lot of women carry their weight lower, so hips, thighs, and butt, and then after menopause, post-menopause, the weight distribution is different, and now it carries higher, and which leads to a higher risk of cardiovascular health because of where the fat is now. Where before, women didn't have that risk younger, unless you are already maybe in an unhealthy, like your body is already unhealthy and higher risk of that. But
yeah, and then
because I guess men have a higher risk just because of where they carry their body fat.
Yeah, typically
women,
in the stomach
like
and stuff.
Different women as like just younger than.
So I mean, a little off topic, but yeah, it's like men have a higher risk of a lot of these things because men technically also should have less body fat than women.
Because
women,
we don't have children.
We don't have to have children, right? So, men being having a higher body fat percentage is a lot more dangerous for them in general. So, yes. But so with the body composition, so yeah, these changes are going to happen, right? Now, here's the other thing. When you pair it with, well, as we age, we do less exercise.
We lose
maybe
muscle.
Our life changes and gets a little more convenient to where we're able to afford more delicious food, and we stock our house with it, and we're, lounging and snacking more. So now you're just eating more and gaining body fat, and then your hormones have shifted and to where you're gaining it in your stomach, and you're just like, this is not fun, right? So ultimately, you can control your nutrition and exercise to help combat gaining extra body fat. so that, yeah, you're not seeing this fat accumulate on your stomach.
Yeah, because that hormone shift is going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
it has to, but what can we do to like lessen it the most to where it's not super extreme? And I think that's the big takeaway.
And make it easier in this time where like there's no stopping menopause. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you can make it easier on yourself if you can learn some healthy habits like before like you hit that stage in your life. So even like women that are in their 20s and 30s, like it's not a bad idea to, I mean, I'm just a planner. So after I've read all this stuff, because I didn't know a lot about menopause before being asked to do this, it's like, oh, I do need to change some things if I want to feel good later when I don't have the support of more hormones.
Yeah. And just because this is something we always harp on as a base habit for everyone, and we can't stress enough. And as you go into the future, this is like the biggest difference that they're finding that's important for as we age is going to come back down to muscle and lean mass, right? You know, before 15, 20 years ago, muscle was just seen as like this bodybuilder thing, meathead thing, something to flex, right?
Wasn't necessary.
But now as we see what's happening to the elderly population, you know, people fall and break a hip and die, and they're basically getting sarcopenia, which is we lose a bunch of muscle as we age, and it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So,
and our bone density goes down too as we age.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's another risk of
Yeah.
after menopause or during menopause, you have a high risk of osteoporosis. So resistance training is super important. Even if you haven't done it before,
yeah,
you know.
it's not too late to start.
It's not
It's
too late.
never
And you
too
don't
late.
have to do the heaviest weight. I
Yeah.
mean,
You
any
just-
resistance training.
Yeah.
Or even even walking. If you're not doing anything, like walking would also
Absolutely.
be like helpful, and you have to carry your own weight around, so that
Yeah.
could be also resistance new to your type of lifestyle if you haven't been doing anything in the past.
Yep. So a big effect of body composition is if you have less lean mass, you're going to have more body fat, a higher body fat percentage from just having less lean mass, right? And then what happens is people actually have less lean mass over time and are gaining body fat, so it's like double whammy. And again, lean mass is muscle, bone, and connective tissue. If you're so when we say you're losing lean mass, it's not just muscle. It's bone density, connective tissue. Like nothing good comes from this. So by doing some resistance training, you know, moving your body, walking,
Yeah.
that helps battle body composition. And then another big factor is making sure you're eating a sufficient amount of protein, because protein is what supports and grows and repairs and builds the lean mass and lean tissue. And as we age, we know our stomach acid and digestive system gets worse. This is part of aging. We actually need we need to ingest more protein to be able to, you know, process it and put it to use.
To get enough out of it.
When the ironic thing is, in reality, people end up eating less protein as they age, because you just typically have more fun food and stuff.
And
so.
I also wonder, like appetite, like, is that change, or like, if you're going to be more tired in this time of your life, like, I mean, like we talked about before we got on, like, just eating whole foods takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
You're
and
right.
it's hard to eat chicken breast or, you know, or just meat. It takes more like chewing and things. So
And
It's not as fun.
it's not as fun.
Yeah. And then, you know, the reality of it is, like we talked about before, our brains are still wired for an environment of like, you may not know when you get food again.
Yeah.
So we're always going to be wired to seek out the most calorie-dense things. And that's a chicken breast. You can lay down a pound of chicken breast, which is only going to be like 400 calories. And it's a lot of food. And then you can have a slice of cake that's 600 calories, and it's a lot less food. And you're not wrong or bad because you want that slice of cake. That's literally how we're wired to
like,
survive.
you know, it's gonna do the trick right now
Yeah.
because you need it now.
So then when we're presented with both options, everyone's like, that cake tastes way better.
Yeah.
Well, we're wired for that cake to taste better because it's more calorie dense. But the reality is, most of us are still going to be eating in about 5 more hours, and you're not going to even have to go one day without food. So our new environment is not supported by kind of how we're wired.
Right.
So that's, you know, the chicken breast isn't going to be fun. So that's where you have to develop the habits. And the great thing is, well, when you choose that food more often, And then all of a sudden, well, you're sleeping better. You have more lean body mass, so you have less aches and pains. You like the way you look a little better and feel. You have more confidence. Then you start relating, well, eating the lean protein gives me all these things. And then all of a sudden, it's easier and more fun to eat because you can attach it to these positive things.
Right, yeah. And then, like, having that, like, I mean, you already touched on some other symptoms that people have, like depression or not sleeping well. Like, these are also other symptoms that a woman could experience during this time of their life. So, like, having that healthy nutrition will support most of these symptoms too, to make you feel better. So learning how to do it earlier instead of trying to figure it out, which is also still okay. It's not too late in post.
It's just gonna be harder.
It's just harder during
it.
it.
Harder,
Because you have more change going on. And then some other symptoms are like brain function, like brain fog. People talk about noticing brain fog. Again, quality nutrition is going to be one. That's really for everything.
Yeah.
Stress management, sleeping better.
To exist as a person.
Managing stress, regular exercise. Exercise boosts brain function because it helps increase blood flow. So getting blood flow, certain chemicals to your brain is going to help you feel more alert, and getting enough sleep. Another is digestion and bowel function. That's self-explanatory. If you're having those issues that a lot of people notice. Same thing, quality nutrition.
The one way that estrogen gets out of your body is through your bowel movements.
Interesting.
And it's the only way.
Really?
And if you're not able to, and it might not play a big part in menopause, but learning how to relax and go to the bathroom when you have to is important to learn. Like, I feel like I'm trying to teach my daughter that now, like, because if you have an unhealthy digestive system, you can't get the estrogen out, and then you could be estrogen dominance, which also is a lot of these side effects that you would experience in menopause. So it's just interesting or confusing or frustrating that it's like all you have to do is take care of yourself, which is the hardest thing.
It's so simple
to do. It's so simple,
difficult.
but how do you get it across? How do you do it consistently on top of supporting a family, taking care of like a billion other things, and having that expectation going into it. I mean, I feel like sometimes I know I prioritize things out of order, like work over sleep, which is frustrating. And I know that I'll probably need more sleep. So I know one thing that I've taken away from all this is like learning to have better sleep hygiene, because I don't have it now, and it sounds like it's not going to get easier as I get older with hot flashes and just having insomnia as like a side effect of not having those hormonal support. Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I went off on a tangent.
That was really good. But I learned something new.
And the thing people have to realize is it's not a zero-sum game.
No.
Like, just because you hear 8 hours a night's ideal and you currently only sleep 5, well, if you can sleep 6, it's better than 5. Like, you get benefits from small.
It's not an on or off switch.
It's like, and I always go back to, what are you telling yourself after you've done something bad? I'm using like air quotes, because okay, you've eaten a whole pizza. Oh, that's bad. Well, okay, it's one setback maybe to not reach that physique goal, but why did you eat the pizza? If it was for maybe for other reasons, but like, you don't have to like keep thinking you're bad because of that, or like I can't sleep and just dwell on how I cannot sleep, and I'm like rooting myself by well, then you're just creating more stress because you're worried about all the bad things you've done, where just because you had pizza and it wasn't something that you had on menu, but it was kind of a last minute, like, this will be easier than preparing a meal tonight. And
it's
don't carry that.
Yeah.
Like, try not to carry that after.
Giving yourself permission to realize, look, say if you weren't going to have food for a week, then eating that entire pizza was a good thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, again, understanding kind of some of the concepts we talk about, I think when people can grasp that, then you can make better decisions, less emotional decisions, right?
And is that what it is?
Yeah. Damn, if I knew I wasn't having food for a week, that would have been, my body would have been helping to protect me, right? And that's really all it was doing. It's like a dog, right? If your dog is barking and a bad guy came in and they bit him and scared him away, you'd be like, good dog, right? If your dog bites a friend that's coming over, you're like, bad dog.
It's like, what? You just told me I was good.
But the reality is, he was good or bad based on the outcome,
or like the situation,
the circumstance, the context, right? So if you eat all day every day and you decide to squeeze an entire pizza in there, it's going to be more than you need, right? So just evaluate that situation. You probably ate it because you thought it was bad and you wanted to get it all in before, because you can never have pizza ever again.
Yeah.
And then you can go down that rabbit hole of, why am I basically emotionally eating this?
Why am
entire
I this
pizza?
way?
So,
Why am I the way that I am?
but so that's okay. Here's a big one.
Well, I wanted to, sorry, I know like someone did actually ask a question about like, will it be easier for me to manage my hunger in menopause? Because right now in my 30s, and I feel like I'm at the mercy of my hormones and like just needing to eat a bunch of food. And it's like, well, you are like, your hormones, like you said, directly affect your satiety hormone and like if you're hungry or not.
Yeah.
So if it's fluctuating during different times of your cycle, I think if you can know that, like it sounds like she already knows that. Like, I feel like this is what's happening. Is it true? Yes, that's what's happening. It is true. So there's some hopefully some empowerment to like, what can you control? Like, okay, if I know this is happening, maybe during these weeks I'll support my body by eating a little bit more. I know that maybe my goals are saying eat less calories, but if you can eat more good food during that week, it could help support it and not have to have like those blood sugar spikes or fluctuations. And then if you know that this is happening, and then in menopause, if you can create those healthy habits of like picking foods mindfully, knowing why you're eating it, like I think it's like habitual later, like I eat because I'm sad, and then you just always have that habit where I don't know if I don't think that you're going to have those hormone fluctuations in menopause, because they're after menopause and postmenopause, they're just low. So you don't have that support of like them changing, but you still have the habit of I'm sad, I'm going to eat maybe. So if you can identify that earlier on, I don't think that I have the problem. The problem is what's your habit of how you deal with eating and stress right now. Before menopause, during menopause,
Yeah. And like you said, for one, like having more nutrition to support your hormones, you can increase the nutrition in your diet and actually decrease the calories in your diet, right? By eating.
That's something that I learned today.
Yeah. So, and in that context, I think that's what a lot of people deal with is, maybe this will be the answer, right? When in reality, a lot of stuff affects our hormones. And like we said, well, so you could feel guilty for maybe, you're struggling to eat the amount you need to maybe have of certain body weight that you're looking to have to be healthier, right? So when you're just like, man, I'm always hungry, I'm always end up overeating, I always end up, but like we just said, well, we're actually wired that way, so really nothing's wrong with you how you are now. What you actually need to manage is your environment, your thoughts, and
stress levels,
and those things, because you're probably overeating because if there's a jar of M&Ms at your desk and you go home and there's a pantry full of snack bars and stuff, they're there, you're going to eat them. You're looking at it then as, oh, this is my uncontrollable appetite. So maybe when my hormones change, this will go away. It's not. Right? Like, you know why? Because all those bars are still going to be in your pantry. All those M&Ms are still going to be an arm's length away on your desk.
And maybe you've taught yourself that hunger is an emergency and I have to
that's another really big one.
And it's...
You haven't taught yourself that. Really, society and your parents have taught you that, right?
Yeah.
Like, from when you were a little kid. And that's the other thing. If you have this habit, hunger is an emergency from the time you were 8 years old, and
the moment it hits, you're going for something.
And you're 45 years old now, this can be hard to change.
Yeah.
And then, like, again, like, I lost my train of thought already. Ooh.
Yeah.
Memory loss is another cognitive decline.
So, whereas, like, you may get some gradual shifts of your hormones to where, maybe your appetite goes down. But for the most part, if your environment isn't supporting what you're trying to accomplish anyways now,
it's
not much is going to change. Yeah. So, but which sounds like doomy, like doom and gloom. But the reality is like, no, that's awesome because like you have the control.
You have more control than you maybe think you do.
And like I wonder, like, are we just don't know that we're actually empowered to change these things? I mean, like, if you don't think you can do it at home, like on your own, like get a coach to help hold you accountable and support you and talk you through like these hard times,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
you don't like you're not the only one going through it. Like a lot of, and I think that some of these symptoms that people have during menopause, they might not talk about it because they kind of feel they're going through alone. And you might want to withdraw because maybe there is more depression just because of the lack of hormones. But yeah, it's not a lost cause. It's not, I mean, I'll be honest, when I was reading this a few weeks ago, I was like, I told you, I was like, I feel like I went through this 2 weeks of like, oh my gosh, this is the end of my life. And I don't even want to like say that because I know there's lots of women here that are in menopause and gone through menopause and they're still being super active. But it was almost kind of like realizing I don't have best habits in these ways. I need to change them. Oh my gosh, I have to change all these things. Or just feeling like this pressure of it's up to me to do, like I have to have the control. There's, and it's scary because for a long time, women are just thinking about other people and not themselves. So making that mindset switch can be hard and scary and overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, and thinking like it is a double-edged sword of like having the power, to change yourself. Like I can do this, but then the other side of the coin is like, this is all on me. Most of it. Like you have the power to make all these decisions and make all of this change. And when you realize that the buck stops at you, like it can be a lot to take in at once. Like, oh shit, like, I'm not, the rest of the world isn't changing me. Like I can still,
So support like through like maybe a women's group that maybe other women that are going through it too or have gone through it, or a coach.
Therapist.
Yeah. Any like if you have a good support system, like I think that's really important for like some of those emotional and mental things that could happen during this time.
I mean, with anything, but like don't ever be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Period. Like there's always someone that can help with anything.
And as you learn, I mean, you'll hear us harp on it, but so much comes down to quality nutrition in your environment, and realize these things used to be built in. This is why it is the way it is. Like you probably wouldn't have to worry about these things, environment, nutrition, exercise, because 200 years ago and beyond, it was all built in. Like quality nutrition was, this because all we ate was whole foods that we hunted or gathered, right? Well, and then to do anything, there was no cars. You had to walk everywhere. You had to chase stuff. You had to pick up stuff. You had to carry stuff. There was no 7-Elevens, right? So
feeling like
we're just trying to recreate what we're designed for. And it's
with all of this noise around us, which is so much harder.
Our environment has progressed a lot, but our bodies have not caught up to like
not at all.
The way that we've progressed in society. So it's really unfair to think like.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
That you should be when. Like you might, like you can, but also it's not your fault that you can't.
And it's hard.
It's
really
around
hard.
us, Like
you're working against a lot. So.
And it takes effort. It's not, there are the people that may find it a little easier, but for most people it's not easy, man. To change your environment when you've been raised a certain way and you feel pressure to be a certain way. Like, dude, that's hard.
Because we live in a world where, even after COVID or during COVID, like you're forced to stay at home and do less and be everything at home. And it's almost like, gosh, I don't really want our environment to shift that way because I like being out. and needing to do more work. But it's really easy to fall into, well, I don't have to do anything because I can just push this button and somebody can order my groceries, which is a great thing because you don't have maybe enough time. But if you're okay making those decisions, like I need help in this way, instead of like, I have to do the grocery shopping, I have to take care of the kids, I have to put the kids to bed, I have to do all the cooking, I have to do all these things, where our life is great that we've improved to have things to help us. But if we're not able to admit or be okay with letting go of some things that we can't control or need some help in, like, it's going to be hard. So I think managing expectations too is really helpful.
And a big piece of this, so as we well know, menopause is part of aging. It comes with as we age. Well, a lot of what we experience isn't maybe specifically because of menopause. It's also part
Because
of
of
aging,
aging.
right? And understanding that aging is part of life. And on a very simple terms, what is aging? Aging is basically our cells deteriorating as we age, and then they don't regenerate as well. This is the beautiful thing of your lifestyle is you can kind of slow down and improve like your cells regeneration and the rate of deterioration. So that's where nutrition, exercise, sleep, all these things are going to help improve the symptoms of aging.
Yeah.
And also realizing that, like we said, it's not like white and black or a line in the sand, like, oh, I hit menopause and I'm going to experience all these things because of this. It's also understanding that our bodies are super complex, everything going around in them, and also our mindset has a huge effect. So like Kristen was saying, how we want to approach it, which things that affect our mindset are also people that we spend time with, and kind of our environments and experiences, right? So if you're around negative Nancy's all the time, and that enters your mindset, and you're like, I'm
That
a
affects
victim.
you.
This is stuff that's happened to me. There's nothing I can do. You could literally cause like worse symptoms because of a negative
And just
mindset.
think of the path that you're, like, what you're telling yourself, and your brain is like, okay, this is how you think now. It can be reversed. You just have to start being nice to yourself and loving yourself and wanting to do some hard work. And hard work always results in feeling better about yourself, because then you can be proud of yourself that you've done this. So.
And one thing, Kristen, you had talked about before we came on was how, just in general, in that phase of a woman's life, is super stressful anyways, because there's a lot of other changes going on. Like your kids could be leaving, so I guess that's like you're like an empty nester. Relationships could be changing. Your husband's also going through changes, right?
Yep.
He's buying probably like getting his third
A
BMW,
boat.
and he's losing his hair, and so you're like, who is this guy? Like, what is like? Do I even like this guy anymore? Your parents could be aging. Getting up in their
Taking care
80s
of
and
them,
90s.
yeah.
And that's stressful to deal with. If you're working, you've been working that job probably for a while, and you could be burning out from it. So you roll all these typically are happening in your 50s, and 60s. Oh yeah, and menopause.
So
It's a lot.
You don't have your hormonal support anymore that made you feel good or like yourself for your entire, like most of your life. And sometimes I just really feel like, gosh, like I love being a woman, but it also seems like shitty.
That's when you got thrown some Shania Twain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Like a
saying?
woman.
Dude, I hear those songs, and I'm a
Do
man.
you feel better?
I'm pumped
And
up,
I'm
bro.
just like, I feel real empowered.
Yeah.
So
So do
That
I.
is so great.
Man,
like, why can't we feel
I
empowered
feel
about
like a woman.
Bro, that's one of my favorite songs.
I remember when I was a
Hands
kid.
down.
Hey, I remember when I was little. Because I guess when that song was out, I was probably like 10, 11,
Yeah,
12.
we were
And remember that song, Whose Bed Have Your Boots Been Under? And I remember asking my
remember that.
mom in the car, I was like,
What is that?
what does that mean? Why would your boots be under someone's bed? I can't even remember the answer she told me, but now obviously I know why. But yeah, man, just throw in some Shania Twain.
It's true. We should be proud of our bodies and what they can do. I mean, just think of your whole life before this. Like, your menstrual, like you're creating an organ every month, and then if you're not getting pregnant, then you're wasting and having to do it again. So, like, just think of how cool the things that our bodies can do. It can support nutrition for your baby for its first year of life. Carrying a baby is also like super amazing too, that I can do that. So it's hard because I think that we do pile on the I'm in charge. Women carry more of like maybe raising the children, or just even carrying that stress of having to do all these things. So like you said, like the man's going through changes too. It's important to still build a relationship with your partner, because it's probably changing, or it's going to change. And if you want support, and you might need support from them. So like just talking about what's going on and like what you will need from them is important. And asking for help, with like maybe elderly parents, from siblings, or even like an in-home nurse. Like, I think that if you can learn how to say no, it's probably the most empowering thing that a woman can do, because I don't know why and I'm just speaking like for me, or kind of like people I've talked to, why do we think we have to show that can do the most work? I mean, I feel like my mom was a homemaker, and she did everything for the home and took care of the children. My dad wasn't absent. He just was in the Air Force, so he was either TDY or like gone a lot, but not always, but worked all day. And I mean, my role model was, I do everything and I have to do everything, and I don't get support. And like, I don't think that was true. It's just like a burden my mother carried. Was that what she was taught? So I feel like sometimes I'm struggling with like, I'm supposed to be doing all these things. I don't even like cleaning the house, but why am I always thinking, I got to clean the house? Oh my gosh, I have to clean the house. It's not getting done. And like asking for help, why is that such a bad thing?
Yeah.
And the way that I ask for help is always like after like, I can't handle one more
It's
thing.
boiled over.
Someone touched me not the wrong way. Like Eden comes behind me, or like Ben wants to, sometimes, or Ben wants to come up and hug me, and I'm just like, no one helps me. I'm trying not to yell. No one helps me. I don't get any help. And then it's just like, and then I think Eden and Ben go have their private meeting. Okay, Mom's like freaking out again, and it's just like, and then I'm like always have to apologize, but. So a recent conversation was, you have to tell me before you get to that point. So now my job is to identify before I get to that point, which is hard sometimes.
I'm going to have a meltdown soon. I
feel like I've said that out loud. I'm losing it, everybody. I'm losing it. I got to walk out of the room.
I mean, that'd be fine. I think it boils down to two, and again, this sounds easier than it is, but like we've talked about it, I don't know if it was the last podcast or the one before, but like don't overfill your bucket. You literally can only take on so much, and you have to think about like, your responsibilities of taking care of a child. You have a relationship. You have things that need to get done around the house, and a job, and all of these things. And like, one person can only do so many. And, thinking that you have to do more than you can handle. Now, I'm sure like some things need to get done. That's life. Right. But there are ways to like make it easier, And I know some people, take on too much because they like the feeling of pressure, doing a lot and pressure and working hard, and they're proud of it, and that still overfills your bucket, even if maybe you do feel a certain pride in it. So understanding that like asking for help is important. We are like a community based organism, and help is like baked into us. Like we need to ask for that.
So where is like the asking for help is a bad thing coming from? Is it society? Like, I mean, I know we talked about before the podcast, like when menopause happens in our 50s, well, 20 years ago, we were like the old wise women of the tribe, and you're allowed to slow down. Well, now it's like, are you allowed to? Because you're still working and you want to, and that's not a bad thing. So how can you still support kind of your lifestyle? So like we've already talked about, healthy sleep hygiene, healthy nutrition, exercise, being active, managing stress. Like these will all help it and help you like continue to do things you want to do until your 70s and 80s, or 70s, so if you wanted to work that long,
Yeah, so setting a good foundation, if you have the ability to when you're younger, or even if you're, going through menopause or you're already past it, like you can still, put yourself a foot forward, and improve your situation.
And probably learning to say no is probably a big thing.
That's such a big
like
one.
saying no to things, like making what's a priority, you know?
Yeah.
I think even more so we're taught you have to take on everything when in reality it's like it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
So you don't have so much on your plate.
And
Which
saying, like, it's like, I think, working a muscle. The more you say no, the easier it gets for you to be
Yeah.
able to say no. And I think people realize, like, your boundaries too. Because if you never say no, well, people are going to think that
Like you can
You're-
handle it, and then the
you're-
expectation is different for you. And then like,
exactly.
is it misguided maybe because you've always been like yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, and then
really
the first
just
time
like,
you say no,
oh my
they're
gosh,
like,
oh my
you
gosh,
never say no. Like, what's wrong?
And no isn't a bad word.
No, that was legit.
No matter what your kid says.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not bad, and they need to hear it because how are they going to learn how to say no when they get older
Yeah.
and set boundaries?
My mom told me she used to say no. Like, if I wanted something, she would say no sometimes, like, just because I needed to hear the word no. Like, not that she didn't maybe
And
want me
you
to
know
have something,
what?
but, like, I needed to hear it, so she would just be like, nah.
That's awesome because I only want to say no when I have the energy to actually fall through. Because most of the time, I'm just like, I don't actually care. And I don't even mean that. It's just like, I don't even know like the situation, but it's just like, I think that it's important for me to say no because sometimes it, like when that last straw, it's just like, I didn't say no enough. And it's like, if I could say it more, like that's really good advice. Like just practicing no would be probably a lot better for everybody
Yeah.
and
Better
learning how to
boundaries.
set boundaries. Yeah.
no.
Menopause.
No.
No.
Did we get off track?
Hey,
I'm not going to do it.
Next time, Kristen, you want to come on and do this podcast?
No.
No?
Oh my gosh. I
You
was
know
just
what?
saying-
That would be fine. I'd be all right with that.
Touche.
Yeah.
So, to kind of recap a little, so ultimately, menopause, yes, it is a shift in your hormones that's coming, that happens, is real.
It's a little different for everybody.
But we can control our mindset, our lifestyle, our environment that also controls some of our hormones in a way. And the biggest kind of 6 strategies, which are going to be probably underwhelming because they're not some secret quick fix. They're all stuff that we always harp on, but hopefully that comes through and that these things are lifelong strategies that
Yep.
can help you with everything. And most of us are overwhelmed, overstressed, overworked, and trying to balance and counteract that is what's going to make the biggest impact. So prioritizing quality nutrition, majority whole food diet, focusing on lean proteins, controlling your total food intake, calorie intake, are going to be very important, very helpful. Approaching one we didn't talk, maybe we should dig in a little on.
Is it the hot flashes?
No, well, so
that was
yeah.
like that was
So
one that was like a big symptom. I feel like a lot of people talk about.
two things. So this habit, which is the number 2 strategy, is how you approach your alcohol intake.
Ooh.
All right. So because
Buckle up.
alcohol.
Sensitive subject.
So talking about things that we do as we age, right? So one is drinking alcohol, and as we get in our middle age, it becomes an even more common habit, right? And the thing with alcohol is that it's ultimately a toxin and poison to our bodies, right? There's literally nothing
Nutritious.
Good. from
helpful happening besides
Fun.
So
Which is
Okay.
okay.
You need fun.
Every once in a while.
and the big thing is, as we age, our livers become less efficient at processing it, right? So you're going to notice more bad things, right? And a lot of people don't connect it to alcohol, but also alcohol causes inflammation. It actually puts us at a higher risk for breast cancer and other diseases. So it's a huge factor for people. And so in moderate drinking is pretty easy to find yourself doing, right? I think for most people.
What do you think the common amount of alcohol a day or a week is?
So this is the trouble, right? With something like. So I think moderate drinking would be considered like 5 to 8 a week, drinks a
Okay.
week. But that's also, 1 ounce of distilled liquor is 1 drink. 5 ounces of wine is 1 drink, right? So it's easy to be like, I only have 1 glass of wine a night, right? But what if 1 glass, you pour a whole glass. It's
How
actually,
big was that glass?
It's actually 10 ounces, right?
Yep.
So it's actually 2 drinks. So now 7 nights a week, that's 14 drinks a week. That's heavy drinking that's going to have a massively negative effect on your body, or something that you're going to have to counter somehow. And then that's going to affect our hormones and stuff. So again, like we talked about, a lot of the symptoms of, air quote, menopause. Remember, menopause is happening while we're, aging. Well, also, we're slowly consuming alcohol over the years as we age, and our digestive system's getting worse, and our liver, the way we process it, there's going to be lots of negative, haywire hormonal stuff going on. So addressing your alcohol intake is a huge factor in all of this. And it's one that people want to avoid, right? Because
no one wants to hear it, man.
it's fun and we cherish it. And it's like,
feel
this
good,
can't
like,
be
And it's
the
usually
problem.
a very social thing too,
Right,
which
right.
is makes it hard.
Hard to get away. So, I mean, you had a good point, like, and we kind of talked about it before y'all should have been here before the podcast.
I know.
honestly.
We always say this. We should record our conversations before the
but like
podcast.
measuring, like, okay, if you don't want to live without it, that's fine. I mean, this is your lifestyle, and you should do what makes you feel good, and maybe how to manage some of this stuff. But eat a lot of good food. That's my take, and I know that we all have different opinions. But like, measure the amount of alcohol. Why not pour it into a measuring cup, like you said your one client did, to stay on track? Because I wonder if the amount actually matters. Like, do you need more? Is it really like you want to hold the glass?
it's
You
the
want to have the
act of-
habit.
yeah.
If you have less of it, maybe you'll even sip it slower. If there's, I don't know, because you are maybe going to enjoy it for actually what it is. I want to relax right now.
Because
So learning how to fit it in that way, instead of like using it as your only way to de-stress after a stressful day, and like I have to relax by having like 3 glasses of wine before I fall asleep.
which then is negatively
Poor
affecting your
hygiene.
sleep.
So the only way you fall asleep is by drinking alcohol, which could keep you up at night, which could cause more hot flashes
and diminish
in the middle of
the quality of sleep.
Right.
So, so right there, like, which our society doesn't support this, it's actually better and more efficient to drink alcohol during the day.
Day
the
drinking.
night. I loved it. I knew it. I knew I was right.
And ideally, you'd want to at least have 4 hours between your last sip and bedtime. Otherwise, it's going to be negatively affecting your sleep. The problem is people think it helps them sleep because it makes you feel drowsy and
You pass
sleepy.
out.
But the problem is you cannot reach a deep sleep.
Even if you're like knocked out, you're not sleeping well.
So then you factor in daily alcohol intake at night, and you are literally limiting the amount of quality sleep you can have. And then you do that for 10 years.
And then probably
20
jacking
years.
yourself up with a ton of caffeine in the morning too. Like,
Because you didn't get good sleep.
Yeah.
And another, like, limiting the amount of caffeine during this time is also important because of just, like, I think a lot of, like the alcohol and, like, the caffeine has to do with maybe more symptoms of hot flashes. We didn't talk about that vasomotor deficient, or, like,
Yep.
it doesn't work as well as it did before menopause.
And that's
more
actually
caffeine.
a recommendation with the hot flashes and stuff. It's actually to take out caffeine and see if it makes a difference.
Because caffeine kind of raises your blood pressure anyway, so would
Well,
that
it's
make
a
it hotter?
vasoconstrictor, yeah.
And would you, yeah.
And it causes cortisol
cortisol.
release and stuff.
So which other things that could make you
Yeah.
be more warm, I guess.
yeah.
And while we're here, just go into temperature regulation, aka hot flashes.
They don't really know, like,
Yeah.
they can't, I guess they're saying, like, they don't know if it is actual hormone imbalance. They can't pinpoint it, but it is happening.
They
and
think
but
it's
it happens enough.
it happens enough, and it could go away, or you could have it for many years. But I wonder, like, if you're having it post-menopause, is it diet-related then? Are you not able, like, is it too much caffeine intake? Is it too much alcohol? Is it
Not enough water.
Not enough water.
And like you said, with the alcohol and the caffeine, so our body temperature is affected by our blood vessels, getting tighter and opening, which both caffeine and alcohol drastically affect.
Do they dilate
that.
it more, the blood vessels?
Yeah. So, alcohol is, caffeine will, does
Caffeine
constricts? Constricts, yeah.
I think alcohol is actually a vasoconstrictor. Let me check
I know it does one or the other.
my sources.
But it sounds like
But
the
either way,
insomnia
it's
and like the hot flashes are going to happen maybe anyways, or you could have some degree of it. So if you can have some
So
healthy hygiene around
check
those.
this out. At intoxicating levels, alcohol is a vasodilator.
So that makes sense, because whenever I drink wine, I get like a pump.
But
My veins get all
when
full.
you go to
So if
like
you drink a
blackout
lot-
drunk, it's a
okay.
vasoconstrictor. the more like when you get past that just buzzed or intoxicated level and you keep drinking, it constricts.
So what was the first one? What made it dilate? Just a
like,
little bit? Like
just being
normal
so like
amount.
a 5 milliliter glass
Just probably
of wine.
drinking some,
Yeah.
But really, the point is like caffeine and alcohol affect these, and then if going through menopause also
it's gonna
in
happen.
hot flashes, it's just more
intense
input of outside
more
things, more variables. So again, and this comes down to trade-offs. Well, if you're like getting crushed by hot flashes, it's worth cutting out those things for 2 weeks to 4 weeks, and hey, does it improve, right? Which we'll get into at the end, and then you journal this stuff, right? And then if it does improve and your hot flashes are better, but now all of a sudden you have to cut out something you love like caffeine or alcohol, well then you're weighing pros and cons and trade-offs, right?
And it might be worth it to have a little bit for you,
right
which is
or to
okay to look at.
And that's.
And I wonder if that is just like the mindset and control. Like if you have control and you can say mindfully, I want to drink this amount of alcohol for this reason, instead of it just being the habit of coming in the door after a long day and opening up the bottle and just pouring yourself a glass of wine and sitting on the couch and then like, I guess I got to cook dinner. I'll just eat something else instead that's easier, because now you're probably late, like feeling more tired because of the alcohol. And every time I drink, I want to eat different things. I don't want to eat my on-menu foods because it's not as fun.
A whole other thing that goes along with alcohol is the different foods, and we're more likely to snack.
I know. I can drive past, I do drive past, say, McDonald's a million times a year.
Not after clubbing,
every single time I go home.
If I'm drinking some, it's like,
Taco Bell?
Yeah, let's hit up Taco Bell. Let's get a McFlurry.
The only time we've gone to the McDonald's around the corner from our house is when we had a night where we drank a lot, and Whitney was like, I want chicken nuggets.
Because it's like,
that's the only one time.
I feel like I don't want to be sick tomorrow. So my response is eat fatty foods and soak up alcohol so you don't have a hangover.
And that's like a learned behavior that, when we were all younger, like that's what you do, and it does help. And
it's not soaking up the alcohol. It's just making the alcohol be less concentrated. Which I guess in a way you could say it's
I know that it's a fix, but it doesn't help after 25. I feel like after 25, like then you just are gonna.
You still like feel crappy from the alcohol, and then you feel crappy from the food you ate. Like
So so the hot flashes are kind of unknown, and honestly, probably having less factors inputs is going to help manage it better.
So there are like, besides like we were talking a lot of holistic and natural ways to support this, but there is like hormone replacement therapy, which seems to be the only thing that could, it depends on how your body handles synthetic hormones. I think it does better earlier, so before 60, like could help support this, and especially if you've hit menopause before 40, where your body is still looking for that supportive hormones, I think can come into play. And I've heard like that's how you can treat hot flashes, or maybe even get rid of some of that body fat, is if you use some hormone replacement therapy. But definitely talking about it with your doctor and knowing some side effects, because some of the side effects of synthetic hormones could also increase your body weight, have the same effects that you're having.
And give you increased risk of heart disease, clotting, specific cancers. It's similar to same thing for men, hormone replacement therapy for men. And that, so what happened, so with this, for women, it's probably beneficial for like short-term use for extreme symptoms. The problem with you do any hormone replacement therapy for long-term, and you see this with young guys who do testosterone, steroids and stuff, is then your body relies on it for your hormones, and it can't do it on its own, which causes a lot of problems downstream. So so it's something to definitely. It's great now that they have HRT through your doctor. So you talk to your doctor, you weigh the pros and cons, and decide that way. So you see it a lot more with men, because as men lose their testosterone and all the negatives with that, they'll hop on hormone replacement therapy to help fix some of those things.
And feel like new human beings.
But again, I know some people who have taken testosterone in their 20s for just muscle reasons, and then they try to come off of it when they're 35, 40, and that everything's haywire because their body stopped having to produce
Just
testosterone
think,
on its
like,
own.
that is probably an unnatural hormone
Yeah.
deficiency that their
Oh,
body has to go
100%.
through. So then
Yeah.
it's just, and I bet it evens out over time, but just think that time of your life, if you're in your 40s, everything is already kind of slowed down. And then if you're having an unnatural deficiency or imbalance of your hormones, it's just going to take it time to balance
Well, and then
out.
think
Yeah.
about what comes along with that, like depression. You
Yep.
know, just like because like maybe you're losing muscle, you don't feel as good as you did, whatever. Like all of those things, almost like menopause. To where like your hormones are taking a huge drop. Like it's kind of mimics that.
Yeah.
Because that is an extreme case.
So if you're able to support your body with the right nutrition and the right amount of calories and healthy lifestyle through some of the things we talked about, like your body can produce these healthy hormones. And then when it's not produced in your sex organs and produced somewhere else, like I think because I don't know, but I feel like if you are like, your body knows how to produce these hormones in other ways when it's not produced in your sex organs, that you'll have an easier time and your body will know what to do once it levels out or during the fluctuations.
Yeah.
And you do that by like healthy diet and resistance training,
Sleeping.
and then stress management.
And a big thing is understanding, having the expectation, look, we are aging. And these things are ultimately going to diminish slowly. And part of it's probably a good thing, right? Like I always think for men, right, as you age, it's probably, if you're able to do it kind of gradually and naturally and gracefully, maybe the fact our testosterone goes down a little as we age is a good thing because now you're older and wiser, and maybe if you have around young kids more, you can be more calm and level-headed and
show them like what like a healthy lifestyle looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be confusing when you're having these imbalances, and it's probably hard to show that, but like trying these habits and practicing them every day. And when you have the energy, I think that's important. If you don't have the energy because you didn't good sleep, then maybe you might need to supplement with maybe having a shortcut on a meal or something. But if you can make those decisions on your own and not like habitual or like, I don't even know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
then.
And in reality, what you're trying to do here is not stop these things from happening, but you want to make it more gradual and slower,
And
right?
feel better during it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, just to optimize the process because it's happened no matter what you want to happen, it's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
So
The way I always like to think about it is like, you don't want to be 60 and feel 80, right?
Right.
And by taking control and having these habits, hopefully when you're 60,
You want to be 80 and feel 60.
Exactly. And when
Yeah.
you're 60, you can feel 40. That's really what we're trying to accomplish. Not, you can, extreme example, right, is like tons of plastic surgery and stuff. It's like if you're 40 and you're trying to look 20, it actually ends up looking worse, right? Whereas if we'll just kind of go gracefully and naturally, that's probably the way to go. So
It's hard. We live in a society where like we like think we should look a certain way, and we think just because someone looks that way they're happier, and they could be. You don't
Or
actually
healthier.
know. And yeah, just because you are smaller doesn't mean you're healthier, and just because you are bigger doesn't mean you're always unhealthy. And like what is too big, only a doctor can tell you what is too big or too small. So if you're feeling good in your body, the things you're doing, keep doing it. When you notice something that is off, trying to identify what you think that is and then make some healthy habit changes in that way.
Yeah. And to wrap up those strategies, so we had nutrition, approach alcohol intake mindfully, commit to regular exercise, practice self-compassion, so like we said, your thoughts,
Yep.
prioritize and schedule recovery and sleep, and take steps to manage your stress. So again, good nutrition, stress reduction, exercise.
The things that we really harp
the stuff
on
you always
all the
hear and you
time.
just kind of shrug your shoulders at because it's not it's not exciting, it's not a quick fix.
You don't see results always immediately.
Yeah.
Or
And they're
you
hard to
don't
change.
or you don't want to see it or hear it. Like I said, I know like we talk about tracking, and tracking is important if you're learning something. So if you're tracking, you've noticed that these foods don't make you feel good, then you would know how to change
Yeah.
that. But if you think you're supposed to eat a certain way, even no matter at any cost of how you feel, then
Yeah.
that's not gonna.
And here's a good way I think we can like wrap it up, right? So say you're going through menopause, I want to like diminish these symptoms, right? So you're also like, how can I get more energy? I feel tired from my workouts. And then typically what do people ask? Well, what are some good pre-workout supplements, right? When the reality is like, reality is like
100%.
Support,
sleep is your
nutrition.
answer. So now you focus on my supporting good sleep. And then through that, now you have more energy for your workouts, and you also are probably going to help diminish some of your menopause symptoms. You know, it's all like it's dynamic.
Yes.
And these core things are really what's going to have the biggest impact instead of like short-term band-aids and quick fixes.
And maybe shifting the priorities of I'm going to prioritize sleep over, and not even say nutrition, because I think that we all have pretty good.
And they go
I
hand
think
in hand
nutrition,
because
but
nutrition
so
can
there's like if
benefit
you
sleep.
did prioritize sleep more, then you might have the side effects of losing some weight that is just hung
because
on
you have
by
less
stress.
hunger
Yeah.
pains, and you don't overeat as much, right? So now your nutrition is improved by your sleep. And then at the same time, though, if you're up at night eating a ton of food right before bed, it's going to make you more alert and harder to fall asleep. So now your nutrition is
And then
hurting your
caffeine
sleep.
in the morning,
Yep,
and
and
then
that's
So-
like
and then I need to fall asleep, so I'll drink alcohol at night, and then
Yeah,
it's
to
just
relax.
so if you're able to connect all these things, I think that you'll be better off. It's hard to want to do the research on yourself, and
Yeah.
even when identify if you are drinking too much or having too much caffeine, like that isn't something that you want to know maybe about yourself,
Yeah.
because then you have to change it, and changing is really hard.
Yeah.
Fountain of youth, like you said,
Is-
like the nutrition, the
Yep.
sleep, the stress management,
Lift some weights.
lift
Resistance
weights.
training. And
Getting
it-
outside and getting vitamin D, and
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
100%.
that'll help
Sufficient
with sleep,
protein.
yeah.
I mean, I was one of our nutrition clients online. You know, a high priority for her is her hair, skin, nails. You know, those things. And
Animal protein, right?
yeah, and when she went, she ate very low protein, and when she went and increased her protein to just 100 grams a day, first thing she noticed was her hair and her skin, the improvement. And yeah, if you know the science of it, I mean, that's ultimately that's what those things are made out of, and you need them, and you need the complete amount. Which animal protein is easier. You can get it from plant protein. You just have to combine certain foods. But yeah, a lot of people then avoid those foods when the reality is they help us younger. They help us slow down aging.
Yeah, and if you break like 100 grams of protein could be intimidating to somebody that hasn't eaten that much. So break it up. Try and get 25 to 30 grams of animal protein,
Yeah.
or the protein that you eat, like good solid protein at each meal.
So
And if
yeah,
you
handful of
prioritize
protein at
the
each
protein,
meal.
then like it probably make and it won't
Yeah.
seem so like I need to
So
find
daunting.
a protein sack.
And
I'll
that's-
eat a protein bar, which might not be.
Yeah, if you're traveling, it's convenient. It helps, but you need to develop better other habits.
you're at-
on
Because
the
that's not
regular.
going to fill you up,
Yeah.
man.
it's
And-
going to make you hungrier
yeah.
probably later.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, and reframe it. This is one reason we like to have people journal and track, so you can learn. Well, in your mind, for whatever reason, because 100 is it's 100,
100,
right?
it's a big number.
So, that's a lot of protein. But the reality, it's only 400 grams of protein. I mean, I'm sorry,
400 calories.
400 calories.
Wait.
It's only 400 calories of protein. Well, so even then, you might be like, well, that kind of sounds like a lot. But then all of a sudden, say when you go journal and you realize that 2 handfuls of M&Ms is like 400 calories, and you realize, oh, I just ate that in 7 seconds,
Seconds.
and I'm complaining about eating 400 calories of protein. It may take longer, but it's not a ton of food,
No.
calorie-wise. So, yeah, you just got to learn. You got to journal. You
Experiment,
have to
yeah.
experiment. You have to be a detective. You have to work at this stuff. If you just kind of go with the flow, you're always going to gravitate to what's easy and convenient and comfortable.
Because your brain wants to do
yeah, it wants to.
what's easy and convenient, because
Your brain always wants easy.
your brain knows what
Yeah.
it wants.
Well, because here's the thing. It comes back down to...
your mind might have a different idea.
Yeah. Our body wants to conserve calories. It doesn't know we're always going to have them. So why expend it when we don't need to? And why stop consuming it when we don't have to, when it's there? So
Yeah.
we're literally working both ways against what our body wants to do. Our body wants to not move much and eat as much as is available to us.
And I really hope that just like this conversation we had about food and how it can react, like, and like 400 calories of M&Ms and 400 calories of protein, like I hope it like empowers people to like want to look at that when they are tracking, because I think a lot of it is just not having the education behind like what healthy
Yeah.
food is and being healthful. because when you go to the grocery store, there's a billion aisles of packaged food that say that
With
it's
marketing,
healthy.
yeah. Well, like there's like special K cereal, high protein cereal,
And it's got like 2 grams of protein
it's like,
per serving.
Yeah, and so in reality, it's not.
But then, like, what else is in it that is
Yeah.
gonna mess with how you feel hunger-wise? A lot of artificial ingredients, which mess
that
your
make it
hormones, that make
taste
you
good.
hungrier.
Yeah.
It makes it taste good and easier to eat. This is way easier to eat than eating chicken or even eating oatmeal, which would be a better option than
Yeah.
the Special K.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So control your environment, control your thoughts,
Go to sleep.
be okay with aging,
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
You don't be afraid.
Yeah, it
It's
has
beautiful.
to.
It's a beautiful thing.
and
Women
then maybe
and men.
we'll have to do one with like men and testosterone, because right now it feels like we got it real easy.
I saw
It does. It
like
does
a
feel that
picture
way.
of it had a man, kind of like a board, like kind of like what's in front of you, Will. So this is like women's, and
Like
then
a
the on
switchboard.
off.
Oh, yeah.
So
And
it's
ours is just a
women's
light
hormones,
switch.
on and
Yeah.
off switch, and it's just like
Yeah.
you're right. Like it is different, but then you guys do experience it, and it was interesting that you touched on like when men are trying to build muscle and they support it by taking hormone replacement therapy to help get bigger, and then when they come off it because maybe they're seeing side effects or don't want to
Yeah.
do it anymore, then they have to go through this, which might not, like, I don't know how many natural fluctuations men go through besides puberty.
Yeah.
I think it's puberty, and then
Just
for the most part, it
age.
should be a decline as we age.
Yeah,
You know, you
slowly-
hit like
slow decline.
maybe 30s or late 20s, and it just slowly.
But by your
declines.
habits, you can make that decline way slower.
Yeah.
So whereas, you could have a 50-year-old guy whose testosterone levels are just shot, and you could have a 50-year-old guy where his testosterones are still like a lot of 35-year-olds.
Or your habits could increase them decreasing like sooner, right? Like less testosterone. So if you're
Yeah.
not eating enough protein, probably isn't supporting that sex hormone. So then just
Yep.
not producing as well and less of it earlier
Yep.
than maybe you want. We keep talking about it because it's so interesting
go-
and
yeah.
I love it.
We could go 2 hours.
Don't forget number 7 strategy.
What's that?
More Shania Twain.
Yeah, buddy. Feel like a woman.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's it. We got some other stuff coming up, right?
Yeah, something.
We got podcast on your thoughts. Digging in with that.
Ooh, that's
with
gonna be a good one.
Amanda. So we got a therapist coming on. Basically, we just get people that are smarter and better than us
I think that's
to make us look good,
Hey, that's fine. with me.
like Kristen.
Yep.
Well, thank you for letting
Oh,
me
we
feel
got
like I
Joe.
was the expert.
Joe coming on next week.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Man, we can talk to him about menopause.
Yeah, that because he's. I mean, how old is he?
It's got to be like, he's in his 50s, right?
I think so.
40s,
I hope
late
I don't
40s,
misspeak.
50s,
Late 40s, 50s, maybe.
53, 52.
As long as he's not like 32, we'll be okay.
Yeah,
'cause,
something like
you know,
that. So
I don't wanna, I
we
don't
can
wanna
talk about hair loss.
overestimate that much. You guys can do that.
Me and Joe.
I'm still doing all like okay for now.
Yeah.
It keeps going back.
I think that's from your mom, right?
They say it's from like your mom's side of the family, but I think it's just from, you're somewhere along your family line,
Just
like the
the way
men in
it's
your
gonna
family.
be.
My brother though, he has
he
like
have-
way less hair than I do.
Tell him he's just got to buzz it.
I keep telling him.
So when I try to relate to some of this stuff, I think about how, because stuff happens to you, and when I started losing in my hair, like if I really want to have it, it's not like it's all gone. It's just thinning a little in the front, and even just any amount that I know isn't what it was bothered me. But I went through like almost, I would say like at least like 8 months of almost, I don't want to use the word depression because it wasn't that. You're just sad, right?
Sure.
And you just, just feelings like that, which I know that's what happens a lot, probably, well, with men and women, as you start, these changes are happening that you can't help. But then you know what the biggest thing was just shaving it all the way.
Yeah.
Because then it's like I'm taking action
You're in
and I'm in
control.
control. And it's like, oh, you decided to do that, right? And then all of a sudden your outlook and your attitude's completely different. Versus if I still had it and it was like slowly receding and I had to look at it like,
You feel out of control.
yeah, I would be like,
Nothing
it's
you
just a
can do
different
about
mindset.
it.
It's a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
mindset. So which is cool because it filters back to all this other stuff. Like really just take massive action on what you can control and you'll be amazed at how that shifts your mindset. Look up The Rock and Jason Statham. Be like, these guys, they'll pull me
bald.
through.
Kill 'em.
I don't know if they'll help you with menopause, but if you're balding, they'll make you feel
got
better
your
about
back.
yourself. So yeah, tell your brother, man. Just take the clippers.
I think I try.
Just buzz it on.
Maybe he likes.
And he has the
The look,
beard.
huh?
He has
I know.
a beard.
He's got a good
The
beard.
beard is super helpful.
Oh god.
Because if you just go clean face, clean head, there's certain looks, especially as a white guy,
in 2021,
you start getting the skinhead look or the Moby look. You don't want either of those.
Nah.
What's a Moby look?
Like
Moby, the
the singer. The
Oh,
music.
okay.
Eh.
You know,
What's he look like?
not The Rock. He doesn't
Yeah.
look like The Rock.
So The Rock is bald,
Yeah.
and Moby is
Bald.
semi-bald. Oh,
No, he's bald. I mean, he shaves his head.
They're
you
just
know.
two different looking guys.
It's just two looks,
Oh,
right? Like
okay.
Moby's kind of like,
Doesn't lift.
yeah, like he doesn't. He just looks very frail.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's just two different looks. But when you have the beard, it kind of helps.
balance
it out.
that
Roughs,
makes
it roughs
sense.
you up a little
Yeah,
bit.
like look at like Michael Jordan, right? He was kind of the first of just like he just started shaving his head and became like almost people who aren't even bald shave their head, right? Maybe to
Yeah.
look like Mike.
Who doesn't look like Mike?
So I don't look like Mike.
I'll never look like Mike.
Nah. You know what? If you get a cigar, you might.
I don't think that's gonna do it.
In about $500 million.
Yeah, that's-
No, I mean he's probably a billionaire.
Nah, dude, they're worth billions.
Yeah, maybe that's the difference. The Rock and Jason Statham. Maybe if you have a couple
Money.
mil,
Yeah, like
your bald head. That's what makes your
It's a
bald head
better-
look better.
Okay, fountain of
It's a
youth.
better
bald
Just
head.
have more money to
Well,
make
for
you
men,
happy.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So,
I mean, yeah.
All right.
All right, let's get out of here.
That's a whole nother episode. We need to
I feel like we did 2 podcasts today.
shut her
We
down.
did. We can do
All right.
the bald episode soon.
See you guys.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.